Alright, well, hello everyone and welcome to a yapping video of mine that is surprisingly not a guide this time. Instead, it's a more of a, well, how to say, a rambling, ranting little criticism video where I would like to bring up and talk about a couple of things that I think is not really mentioned too much within the community or the player base that much. Definitely brought up occasionally, but I feel like I just really have to let this off of my shoulders, honestly, at this point. Because it's been a couple of years since this been building up in within me, basically, that I just really have to talk about this and kind of just bring it up. And I just kind of just have to ramble about it because obviously there is no change to this or nothing will change, so it's not really like something where I expect change because it's not that simple. I would like to talk about basically a couple of criticism toward the game too that I think is quite problematic, where I do expect or would hope for some sort of change maybe in the future. But the other bigger part of this video is mostly something regarding more of the something between the game and the player base itself, and that's not something that will really change, but I will get there. But before I get into the video and talk further, I would like to mention that this is not really any sort of disrespect to any of the developers or such, or to ANET and such, because this is not really exactly like their fault or anything. It's like kind of like a symbiosis back and forth that just comes from the other and then just keeps cycling. So it's not that easy to just say that like, oh yeah, they did it badly or the player base is bad and such and such and such. So I will try to elaborate a little bit when I get there. And yeah, and also this is not about me being right or wrong or such. So I'm not trying to be like, oh, trying to earn that like, oh yeah, I'm so right there, or you are so wrong and such, because this is just my personal opinion, my own perspective of things. And I just occasionally see that some people bring up these kind of things, and it just like, I feel like I just have to talk about it. So first of all, starting off, just a couple of criticism toward the game that I think I wish it would change. First of all, probably visual clarity about the game that I do want to mention. That is, I think, quite something in the game that is, well, has become quite horrendous to look at on certain fights and encounters, both even in raids or like convergence or raid encounters that are technically strikes. I will probably call them strikes because I'm more used to that, but those kind of things. And honestly, visual clarity is just, I don't know, by now kind of feels like it's non-existent in the game, which is kind of weird because they did try to work on that early on in the game. Because if you guys remember back then, like they reworked, the aura effects and such, and kind of nerfed certain spells or spell effects visually to keep some visual clarity. And then it just kind of went down the drain, in my opinion. But I also don't blame them because it's not that easy to work it out. I would assume, but there could be solutions for them. So I hope maybe in the near future or in the future or any time there might be a solution for it or some sort of fix for it. But yeah, it's just kind of bad right now. I feel like maybe not every single encounter, obviously, but there are some which I will try to give an example here probably when I'm talking through this part, where actually just yesterday I was doing convergence, the public one, where we had Greer for the time being, and I think it's one of the best examples of some parts of the fight where it's just absolutely just cannot see anything. It's the visual clarity, which I will get back to with like different points as well through the video, where it kind of connects into visual clarity as well. It's absolutely horrid to just, well, literally just you just can't see anything. You absolutely can't see anything. And it kind of has to be changed. Moving on a different kind of thing. It's kind of minor, but I feel like I should just mention, because I do have an opinion over it, that well, talking about masteries, I will be honest, masteries in the game nowadays, since like maybe Soto a little bit, and maybe even before, honestly, depends. has been kind of pointless or useless. I feel like they're just like a bloat there as like a kind of nothingness to add to the game. I would say maybe the mount masteries are probably one where I would say it is kind of useful, obviously, because they add to the mounts and how they work and such. And of course the gliding from Heart of Thorns, which felt really nice because, you know, you just added so much more to a new type of movement we had. But everything else, like are such a just, not saying that every single mastery has to be useful, but when it comes to the point where a mastery is just like, oh yeah, you can now progress through the story, and that's all it is for, it just feels like such a cheap thing to me. It's like, why, you know? Like, there are so many in the game as well. Currently, if I just bring it up here on the screen, if I don't forget to actually put it on the screen for the video, you know, even back then in like Heart of Thorns, honestly, there were like a lot of those that were just felt like very useless, so just literally just there for gating like the Deedsel poison lore, which you needed for a certain part of the story too, I think, where you had to progress through, you know, where you had the poison and you simply couldn't progress until you had it. So that was fun, which, you know, I kind of give it a leeway or so, because it was the very first time, I guess, you know, they were not expecting people to just try to rocket through the entire story and everything. They expected players to stick around the maps and keep leveling their masteries and such. But ever since, you know, they could have learned Path of Fire, I mean, that's more of a mount things on. I mean, honestly, they're all just mounts, genuinely. So that's not really that bad. But beyond that, like, well, there is Iceblood Saga, which gonna be a good example for another things. But even then, like, even in Visions of Eternity currently, like Stealthy Survivor, what's the point? Why? Like, just why? We needed it so far for one single story episode part where, you know, you have to use them to stealth around, which is not mandatory, but for a achievement I think you have to use it. But it's not mandatory. You can literally just kill everything on the map and just advance anyway. So it's not needed at all. So I don't really understand what's the point of this, because even on the PV maps, I don't even know why would you use this or where, honestly. I mean, it's very minimal, you know, if you talk about it like this. It's like, yeah, it's like the first mastery, but even then, it's like, why? It's just such a non-existent mastery for, it does nothing. You don't even interact with it. It does, like, you just have no use for it. And I don't know, but the other one where I do want to mention that infuriates me and always infuriated me, which both not End of Dragons, Iceblood Saga and Secrets of the Obscure, or SOTO, has been kind of really hated it for it that they did it, is the chest. If you guys recall the chest from IBS or from SOTO, you know, the magical arcane chest, I really genuinely hate it when you get to a new expansion, you do the meta or you do anything, it gives you chests, you know, that spawn. Not talking about the little wiggly chests that you get in the you know, next to your minimap, which is fine, you know, because it's like the XP and everything. But I love it when you do a meta in first time in an expansion and you enjoyed it, and then you go and you want to loot the extra chest, and then the game tells you that, like, F you, nope, get the mastery for no reason. So it's just like the game just smiles at you like, oh, you wanted this loot? Huh, yeah, that sucks. You just can't get it. So it's like, why gate loot behind masteries? Why do this over and over again with everything? Either, you know, the additional loot and such, it just feels, again, to me, it feels cheap and just kind of like pointless, or outright sometimes infuriating. These things where they gate loot behind the mastery or the first mastery and such, I stop doing that. Like, genuinely, that's my feedback on it. Stop doing that. I can't stand it. Currently, like Visions of Eternity, I'm fine somewhat. I still dislike it that, you know, I'm not even sure which Masteries now. I actually completely forgot. I'm sorry for that. I don't remember, but I know. Yeah, it's actually the first one. Like again, you could have the magic mirrors from the get-go, but no, you need the mastery, which is in this case kind of, you know, sort of fine, I guess, because they are not tied to the meta exactly or any big meaningful things. They are just like there's an extra that you can loot as part of the map, which to me is kind of more fine, you know. And Soto could have been fine for me too, as well as an example, if they don't put the chest onto the meta when it finishes, for example, and then it tells me that you can't loot it because you don't have the mastery, and it's like, yeah, thanks, that's amazing. Well, anyway, I don't want to yap too much about the masteries, but that's definitely one critical part of it as well. Another short thing I do want to mention is like Homesteads, for example. My feedback and criticism over Homesteads is, well, mostly, I would say that I just don't think it really ended up being what I expected it to be from the get-go. But I would say that's mainly because, you know, kind of, for example, there is no neighborhood or anything, you know. You can't really just easily show off your homestead to anyone, in a sense, you know. I'm not talking about like, you know, third-party application, website or anything or such, or like showing it on like a YouTube video. I'm not talking about that. In-game, that you can immediately do, you know. Just even by the fact that you need a party and form a party and invite someone into a party to get them to your plot or your homestead, it's kind of missed the mark, in my opinion. Like almost everyone else can do it, like not everyone else, but like even in Final Fantasy, you know, I'm gonna example with like Final Fantasy a little bit occasionally, because that's another game I do actively play lately for a couple of months now, once again. And you know, I played WoW and such, and back then WildStar, which had, in my opinion, still one of the best housing, thematically speaking too, and it was great. But one pet peeve I have that I do want to mention immediately is that I really, really dislike the fact that so many decorations are mismatching in theme. Like, it's like every single team has like, oh, it is like 2, 3, 4 pieces of the same theme of something, and then nothing else fits it. You know, it's just like, why? I will ask this a lot of times, why, as like an ironic sort of question to it, but I just don't get it. Like in WildStar, you had so many, there were, I think like more than 1,000 decorations easily by the end. It kind of started off with like a couple of hundred, I remember because I was there at the start and the beta. But even by the end, you could fit so much things together regardless, because both in art style as well, not talking about necessarily the art style, but just the theme of the decoration fits. And in WildStar, it did fit together so well with almost anything. Yes, there were like futuristic things, if you played the game, you know what do I mean, thematic wise. But there were like, you know, several, like if you wanted to make a forest like I did on my plot, then you had so many types of trees, for example. You had so many varying grass and such that would fit and wouldn't look out of the, you know, like out of place basically. Meanwhile, here, which another thing that bothers me is that, like, you know, they are selling these packs basically on the gem store, and it's like 7 or something items on average or such, and they're like, cool that there are 7 items and decorations that fit together and nothing else fits it thematically, you know. Like, sure, you can force it in there, but it doesn't fit, and you know it doesn't fit. You just try to make it fit, but it doesn't really fit, and it's just kind of frustrating. Because of that, I kind of ended up never bothering with Homesteads, honestly, personally speaking. I know that people use it. It's not, I'm not saying that you know, people don't use it and don't play with it and build things. I'm just saying that it could have been such a great thing and so much better than what it is. That's what I'm saying, you know. And it's I don't know, it kind of just missed the mark for me, especially because of the like party thing and, like, you know, need to invite in people and such. Moving on from this topic a little bit to the next thing before I get to the big topic that I will probably talk a lot about, so I expect the video to be long, honestly, which I should have mentioned probably at the start already. Another thing is, like, the encounter design, you know, it's just kind of comes together with like the visual clarity too. The encounter designs in the game has been kind of, I don't know, just not there for me. I feel like, for example, like the first raid wings, up until like raid wing 7 maybe, not exactly every single boss, obviously, I'm not saying that, but a bunch of encounters I think are really engaging and fun, and were fun to do when I was still like actively raiding a lot, both with friends and other people, or joining some other people at a time when I started raiding myself. And I don't know, nowadays it just feels like a bunch of encounters are just like, you know, bosses sitting in the middle of a arena and just spamming a you know, just a rotation of random attacks, and they just like that. There's no pattern to it that much, except for, you know, the ones that like, oh, it will do this at like 75% health and such, because that's like always there. Nothing really changes there. But I feel like a bunch of fights as well, since the start as well, this is like a criticism from the start as well, that I feel like a bunch of attacks and mechanics are not well telegraphed. I feel like they should really telegraph a lot of the attacks as well, not just, you know, something that is a typically AoE somewhere away from the boss or such. And sometimes they're just not clear. There is like no. Sometimes there is a like, it's very inconsistent basically a lot of times to me. Which will be another sort of half topic for another part of the video as well, because there's a bunch of things that I want to talk about without being too unhinged, of course, or anything. I could be, but I'm trying to be respectful here. You know, this is more of a criticism video while kind of rambling about these. And to be more exact, I'm gonna move on to the big topic of this video, which will be again quite long probably, because I could rant and ramble about it for hours upon hours personally. But I have a problem with this game and player base symbiosis, sort of, if I can call it a symbiosis. Or maybe not exactly the best word to use. I do apologize. My word usage, or like, you know, picking words for certain things is really not the best. You know, not being English is kind of comes with that, I guess. But just in general, it's really frustrating the way, because it's sort of like a mutual back and forth thing between the game and the player base, which I will not call a community in this case, because that's, to me, is a little bit different thing, because a player base is just the players of the game, and the community is a more specified part of the player base, you know, caring about the game and engaging with the game. So I will try to refrain calling the player base as a community, and just stick with the word player base here. The main problem, which I think almost anyone will bring up, in my opinion, or at least I will at the start, that the game doesn't teach anything. It doesn't incentivize people to try to learn. It's like a myth. There is nothing to it. It tries to teach nothing, and I don't even understand what is even the point of, you know, someone making their first character, for example, or you making an alt character, and you have to go through that little level 1 tutorial. What is it supposed to teach? Why is that even there? And even at the start of the game, it made no sense to me. I just go in there and just basically tells you a couple of things that like, oh, just kill a bunch of mobs. The only thing it teaches me is that I can move in this game and I can auto attack. Basically that's it. That, yeah, you have like an auto attack skill and you have a healing skill, which I think you still get it there, because I think it does tell you or give you that you have a healing skill. And like that's it. It's like cool, you know, but it's like a 1-minute tutorial that teaches nobody absolutely nothing. And it also explains nothing well as well, which another problem to me about the game by now. I was a very free-minded person in a sense in the game, you know, that I didn't care about builds or anything or building. At the time when it, like, you know, when the game came out, it was quite chaotic with the item stats we had and such, because we didn't really had any, you know, group content until well, apart from dungeons, which we did, and we could do them, so it kind of meant that like, okay, we are doing okay, which is also a very big illusion in the game, in my opinion, which I will get onto as well. But you could do most of open world things anyway, probably still struggle. Like I remember, people quite often being killed in ore, for example, while killing the zombies and such. And I mean, I remember reviving a bunch of people time to time on like events where all the zombies were rushing and such, and you had to different places. But just I don't know, it's really hard to put into just very concise part of this, because it's so much things collaborating to this, but my problem is that, for example, like there is Guild Wars 1, okay? Either you played it or not, the game does sort of incentivize you to learn, by all means. It kind of punishes you. It's not afraid to sort of, kind of make you restart things over and over, because you should maybe think that like, okay, this is not really working, maybe I should rework my build, or maybe I should build with something else, or maybe check my gear if it's up to date in a sense of like armor and such. Obviously it's a bit more complicated in Guild Wars 1 than that, because it's a bit more complex. In Guild Wars 2, I feel like from the start, the only thing it teaches people and players is that, yeah, you can just go into the game, face tank everything, and just auto attack to no end, and that's it. And GG, you have finished the game basically. Like, it's crazy the amount of new player streamers. Most of my experience, by the way, from here, visually speaking, or sort of explaining why I mentioned that I see a bunch of people like this, because I've been lurking on a bunch of streams of new players and people who try the game, or like slightly, having like a few hours in the game, or maybe 100 hours in the game. And I kind of just like, lurk around on their streams on YouTube, or mostly Twitch and such. Doesn't really matter, honestly. And I've been doing this for the past like 3-4 years or so now. They're just, just checking them out for a while. And it's just kind of crazy how they go and they think that the game is so easy, and I mean, technically speaking, it is, if you understand the game, which is kind of funny, because yes, the game is easy actually, if you know what you are doing. However, they don't know what they are doing, but the game still gives them from level 1 to 80, the core gameplay kind of just gives them this impression that, oh, I can just stand in one spot, maybe dodge here and there, if they even learn that they have a dodge or something, and they just face tank everything anyway. Story or not, it doesn't matter. They go down, they get revived by an NPC anyway. So nobody's bothered, because why? Even if you get down, don't worry, an NPC will just revive you immediately. I mean, in Guild Wars 1, if you died, then you got a death penalty, which meant, you had less maximum health and less maximum energy for the entire party. And it kept stacking up until minus 60%. So not saying that, it's not necessarily saying that like, oh, that's a fun way to do it, but it definitely makes you rethink that, well, crap, maybe I should probably restart this by now and start from fresh again, and maybe rethink what the hell did I do, what am I doing wrong here? It's trying to, I mean, if you think about it, in Guild Wars 1, it tries to tell you that once you go too bad and get too deep in death penalties, maybe you should rezone back into a town or an outpost, and maybe perhaps rethink the builds you all are using, or you and your heroes and such. And in Guild Wars 2, it's like, no, nothing, just do whatever the hell you want, just keep going, nice, go champ, it's like a little bit tiring. And that's what I see from almost every single new player. They're just questioning this thing like, oh, that's actually pretty easy, wow, this is super easy. And then you see them doing no damage. They have not saying that you need that, for leveling, but definitely makes it easier, like literally like in every single game, because for some magical reason in every other game usually build for more damage, so you can kill the thing faster, so it can't even touch you, instead of building always full tanky, which I know that some people do, but in most cases people have the basic instinct that, okay, I either become very tanky, or I try to become very powerful and then see how far I can go with it. And once I'm being one-shot, regardless of how strong I am, I will try to become tanky, But that's usually a solo game anyway, so you can only rely on yourself, which is the open world gameplay is as well. The problem is that the game doesn't punish you by any means. It just, again, doesn't tell you that you are wrong and you are bad at the game. And from there, I will mention that I think that's another problem, that the game just doesn't. Okay, again, I'm not saying that the game should hold your hand fully and just drag you through everything and tell you that like you must do this and there's no other way, or just force down everything your throat, because that's not a best way to do it either. But it definitely should guide you and nudge you to a correct path. Okay, I think that's how it should do. And I feel like that's how Guild Wars 1 did it as well. And a bunch of other games that I have ever played also does it. It isn't afraid to punish you, but it's like the opposite from, or like the opposite in Guild Wars 2. It's afraid to punish people and players because, oh no, you're gonna have a bad time. We can't have that. Why? That's like part of the thing. It's like you cannot fail because that's bad. No, like failure is good because you learn from it. That's how everyone and everything learns. That's like literally evolution, honestly, basically. It's like trial and error, and you get to the point where like, oh, okay, this works, now it's good, But no, in Guild Wars 2, it's like, oh no, that's too scary for the new players. They are babies. And sometimes that's how it feels like. And I feel like that's the thing where sort of this... But actually, this is where sort of probably the only time where the community comes in, which is less than the player base, because the community is who cares about the game and connects together, versus the player base who just like a random Joe player that goes around and never heard about Discord or Reddit or the Guild Wars 2 forums or anything at ever, Skype or anything like that. They just open up the game or run the game and they log in and just like I'm gonna do this and that, and they never talk to anyone or never been on anything ever in their entire life, and they just happily go around not understanding anything, but they think that they do. And from this point, I do want to branch out to two things, which is one, the illusion of I am doing right, and at the other part where the game doesn't want to tell you that you are bad or doesn't want to guide you. So instead, it's now the community who has to do that. And that's why we have a crapload of guides all over the place in Guild Wars 2. Because look at YouTube about Guild Wars 2. What are the main content for Guild Wars 2? Guide this, guide that, how to do this, how to do that, how to do this, how to do that again. Over and over and over. Why is it that I go to another MMO and most contents are fun, meme, machinima, and anything like that, really? While you go, like not Google, but search on YouTube for Guild Wars 2 and it's like very minimal fun things, almost 99% guides. And I think that should tell a bit more about the game, because it's just you should just look at that and you should probably realize what's the problem with the game. That everything remains to the community, and all it creates in the end is just frustration as well. Because one, it's the community, not the player base, it's the community who has to try to reach out to you to understand things. They have to take the effort to tell random Joe in your strike group who just joined your strikes, or raid encounters the very first time, doesn't know shit. Sorry for the swearing. Gonna be happen maybe like once or twice more, but they don't know shit basically, and you have to be the one, either the commander or some of the players who have to tell them that like, yo buddy, you are doing super badly, or try to like, hey, have you tried doing this something? But doesn't really matter, both ends. If the game doesn't do it, then both ends up for the community to do it for you, which is gonna be guiding you and telling you that you suck. And guess what? People telling you that you suck hurts, because it's other people telling you, and it's like, causes this little toxic reaction from things that like, oh, you can just tell me that. That's like, I play however I want. And the problem is that yeah, you play however you want, but not really exactly in something like a group content where you also rely and other people rely on you, you know. It's more of a mutual thing, you know, and supposed to be, because guess what, this is an MMO, you know. It's just hurts, you know, when people are just not wanting to learn anything as well. Still sticking on this, trying to keep sticking to this thread that I started, where people will tell you, you know, how to do things, but then people will be also the ones that you suck and you are bad, is gonna hurt you more. But the problem is that is because the game should do the explaining and telling you that, you know, you should, you know, the game should nudge you to the right direction, not the players, because you will interact with less part of the community than the player base, because the player base is every player, while the community is just a part of the player base that wants to act and engage with others and the game itself. And that means that also less people get to know things, which means the more chances that you will always bump into people all the time that just do absolutely do nothing and know nothing, you know. Now there is more to go on with this, but I will go back to the, you know, this delusion or sort of like illusion of I'm doing well, where it's really annoying for me in this game that, again, you know, that the game just doesn't tell you that you're doing badly, so everyone thinks that oh, I'm doing so well, oh my god, I'm level 80, I've been just face tanking everything and just auto attacking, that's great. And then typically, you know, they go into like Heart of Thorns and get eaten by the pocket raptors, which is no joke, honestly. I mean, that's sure, it's a meme, but it is true. Because they get eaten by the mushrooms, they get eaten by the poker, they get eaten by everything. But typically, the poker raptors are one that you do bump into immediately, and you think that they are little nothings while they are swarm. But you know, it's just like, and then they, you know, that's when you see a bunch of people coming to the, you know, like the subreddit, the Guild Wars 2 subreddit, and like, oh my god, like, you know, Heart of Thorns is suddenly so like the difficulty spike is just crazy. The difficulty spike is not really more, it's more that it feels more because you don't know the core of the game, and the expansion expected you to know what is a CC, is, you know, crowd control, what boons are, which is a basic functionality of the game, and, you know, what is a strike damage versus a condition damage, where people still go around with random gear. It's, oh god, it's just, it is just crazy how complexly, or like how complex it's connected to each other with all these problems, and every single little problem I can talk about just branches out to another 2 or 3 things that I can talk about, and it's just crazy, you know, that it's really hard to talk about this for this reason, you know. But again, the reason I say this because it's both the game's fault, but it's also the player base's fault. Because I don't understand partially, how do you go into a game and you don't have a single like thought about, yeah, I want to improve, because that's what I do in almost every single game, you know, like any, even just story-based game you play, not talking about like visual novels and such or whatever, but almost in every game you know that you will advance and try to advance. Yes, most of them are more streamlined, so you have no choice, you will know that you will advance in some sort of power level, you know, by all means, and it just keeps automatically scaling, you know, for you. But in many other games you kind of have to do it yourself, you know, where you have the options to like swap out things and just becoming stronger, you know, upgrade things. And here it's like you are also given the options, but nobody bothers because the game also doesn't explain things, you know, which is understandable. Again, it's kind of like a double fault from both sides, but it's again like, how do you go around and not being interested in like anything? Like, I remember back then playing so casually, and I was like, you know, killing it all before, you know, there were like, I think it was literally in Heart of Thorns, because that's when they broke out I think guild halls as well the first time. And genuinely speaking, I was watching a couple of people on streams, you know, doing content, and, you know, watching myself struggling to kill a single mob in ore because I had random gear on, and just like keep whacking a single zombie with like 7 billion times to kill it. And then I look at the streamer who just like, yeah, I'm gonna use 2 auto attacks and just like crit, and the mob dies. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Wait, how is it that he just killed that thing in 2 hits solo, although it was a normal mob, and I'm here killing a normal mob and it takes me like 25 seconds to kill it? And then, you know, I'm just like checking like, oh, you know what? I'm going to look into it because I am a little bit confused about things right now. Like why am I so bad at this? Because, you know, I suddenly compare myself because I never really realized when I was playing the game like that, you know, just randomly going around doing some events and basic random bullshit, that, yeah, I'm bad and I was bad, and that's completely fine, because I think admitting to yourself that, oh crap, I'm bad, that's the turning point, and should be for everyone, that like it's fine to admit that you are bad, and you shouldn't be like, oh, how dare you tell me that I'm bad, as some people's reaction are sometimes. I think that's like admitting that you don't understand fully everything and you are bad at the game is a completely fine thing, by the way, to do. You don't have to become toxic and salty all over it. You know, I get it that some people should tell you a bit more politely, you know, not just like outright flame you or something, but you should also see the other side of that coin too, you know, that like, okay, I get it, I'm bad, and maybe I work on it and I will show you that how good I can be. No, they are just like, no, I'm just never gonna do strikes, raids, or fractals, or dungeons, or anything anymore because they told me I'm bad or flamed me. And, you know, on one end, I understand you, okay, sure. But why does it mean that you immediately have to quit, like, all the content in the game? Because you got flamed that, oh, you are so bad. By whatever language or strong language they use, possibly, you know, that's up to them and whatnot, which I don't condone exactly. I never remember flaming anyone ever in my life, telling them that you are so bad. Not in the sense of like, you know, outright just flaming them that they are, oh, you are so bad, oh my god, why are you here, like you're gonna get kicked or anything, you know. I had bad experiences with these kind of people too, yeah, of course, but not like, I try to keep it polite and just explain to them that like, hey, you are doing like, are you doing ahead, do you have a build or something, you should either change it or try to, or like, can I help, do you have proper gear? Like I geared out people before in the past from my own gold, and then they were happy to change and see the advancement, I guess, or, you know, doing better afterward, and trying to teach people, you know. But you can't expect, you know, you also can't expect the entire community always just teaching the other players. It should be the game's job. It should be the game that teaches you as the player to what to do and what these systems are. Not saying that they have to do it with the, you know, I get it that you know, there's the meme with the what is it called, yellow paint, you know, that like, oh, you have to go there, you have to go there, you have to go there, and you can only go there. No, but like, it's an MMO, there are systems and stuff behind it, you know, it's a different game. This is not a solo story game. Well, I mean, it kind of is, honestly, by this point, because a lot of people just don't like to interact with the other a lot of times, because somehow everyone is very shy and you know, introverted in this game, including myself, but not that much. Well, anyway, that was a side tangent. Again, you know, just, I don't know. Talking about, you know, these kind of things is just that a lot of times people argue with me that people are new. They are new, you know, give themselves slack. They are new. And I will example with like Decima, the convergence, for example, because that's typically one where whenever I stream and I have convergence going and I get Decima or anything really, even Greer, even though it's like visually an absolutely clown fiesta, like we get Decima, for example, okay? You know that there are 2 arrow mechanics. There are the tiny little, okay, not so tiny little yellow arrows on the ground targeting someone. It's completely harmless. And then you have the other one, the big, violent, electric, red arrow that looks like it's about to end your life, in-game, of course. And typically, what do I see every single time this happens? Let me tell you, what I see is that people hop up onto the wall club and keep circling the boss while they have the tiny arrow on them, which does nothing, by the way. It doesn't kill you. It does like 2000 damage or something or less, depending on your build or gear. It does absolutely nothing, but if it hits a conduit behind you or in your line, then it will create an AoE, you know? And I don't like that AoE because some people keep stacking it on to the point where the entire zone around Decima is just a giant red zone, a zone of death, because it kills you very fast. And then people keep pointing it typically toward the conduits, ironically. But whenever someone gets the big red arrow of death, they just stand there and kill half, okay, not half, but like a chunk of the squad. Because I usually tag off for these in most cases if I can. And yes, this is a POG one, I do understand, but you can't argue that for something that's been out for a year, that every single time I go into Convergence, every single player is always new, that like more than half of the squad or out of the 50 people, more than half of them are constantly new player who just ever play, like first ever playing Convergences in their lives. Like, are you telling me that there are so many millions of players that every single day, multiple times through the day, there are just new players who never seen this content in their life? This is a stupid argument that I hear about this. There is no way. And it bothers me a lot that people have no visual awareness in this game about anything. Where they're standing, what is happening around them, what's going on, what are they doing? Nothing. In this, I'm gonna drop an F-bomb. In this fucking game, nobody knows what they are doing. They don't read, they don't watch, they don't look, they don't do anything. Everyone just stands around auto-attacking and being basically AFK. And it's infuriating by now to me that you go to a meta, like a world boss or a meta event, anything like Jorme, Drakkar, for example, and such, you know, and people just auto-attacking the nothing, even when there is nothing there, just kill like whooshing their swords and you know, crap like that in front of the way where the boss will be. And like, the hell are you doing? You actively have to press the button or have at least an auto hotkey, I guess, to actually keep auto-attacking if there is no target or you are hitting nothing outside of combat. So you are telling me that you can't see the wall in front of you, that there is nothing, but you're still standing there swinging your effing sword, you know, around, that like you're waiting there because you're just leeching the entire thing. Like the entire game just became these like leechers at this point a lot of times. Like, look at like a lot of, yeah, I get it, they are easy world bosses, but do you know why they are easy as well? Because there are people who carry it. Like, you can still go to Chuck Garant and you can still see lanes where it's like they do their part and it stops around like 40-30% health and it phases to the second one on Chuck Garant again. And it's like, you know, people like wondering like, wow, why did it go slow? Well, because they had a bunch of people who couldn't do any DPS. And yeah, there's DPS because guess what's gonna kill the boss? The damage. Not your healing, not your boons exactly. I mean, partially boons, like, you know, other critic quickness might, yada yada, yeah, sure, it's not that. But it's not your healing that's going to kill it, you know, and such, or like you existing there as like a non-contribution to the entire thing. It's damage, and sometimes you can spot players who do basically 5 people's damage or 6 people's damage, and you have 2 or 3 of these people. They count almost as like 15 people around the boss, just the 3 of them, with maybe like 1 boon heal. I am usually boon heal on these fights because almost everyone is just dying around, with like the very few exceptions. And it's just, oh man, why is it such like this that this is the part where I would love to be just unhinged, honestly. Because it's just infuriating, honestly, that it's always a few people carrying world bosses, you know, where you have to kill a boss, where you have to kill, basically, which is almost everything. Like, it's, I don't know, I don't want to sound like an ass or anything, you know, it's not like that. Like, I'm not trying to be mean to people, but it's crazy to me how absolutely brainless the player base is in this game. And I do blame both the game for it and the player base itself, that they had no incentive to try to be bit better or try to learn about the game. Like, how do you not look at bunch of players don't even read their skills? They have no idea what they are doing. They're just pressing whatever hell they can, and just that's it, because haha, it's so fun. Yeah, I get it, it's fun, but it's just it's just so stupid. And then, you know, I don't even know how to talk about this properly, because it's kind of like the same experience, you know, that this also goes back to the point where like the community is teaching players, you know. That's why we have a bunch of guides. That's why we have guilds that are like doing specific things that are considered to be hard, like, you know, Tekotol or triple trouble and such like that. And you know, more dedicated to these and such, you know, trying to help people and explain. But it's like, oh, why is it that every single day, every single time you go there, unless you do with the same exact people, you always have to re-explain everything time to time, you know, even a bunch of times to the same people. Honestly, I'm not talking about friends, you know, but like, you just see regular people around there, I guess. But even then, it's just like, it feels like nobody cares, you know. It's like, oh, it's gonna be down anyway. Yeah, but again, it's only going to be down and fast, and goes down fast and reliably, because there are people who understand the game, which, yes, inherently will mean that they do DPS. You know, this is not about having a good build and stuff. Because if you just understand the game, you will be able to make a good build by default anyway. That is more than enough. That you can also be a carry, you know. But it's crazy to me that people aren't even aware in the game that something like Dragon's End was never hard. When you do it properly with people who, like, when people know what to do as well, even if half of the squad are new, if they can just read just a few lines of what to do, which they won't most cases, then it is easy, you know. And it's just so crazy to me when now you had like raid quick play, and then you see these posts occasionally around the places like forums or whatever, or even Reddit, whatever, and people, you know, because I know that there is OLC. I actually haven't tried quick play raids because I'm not interested in them, honestly. But, you know, there were people mostly raging about OLC, that they are very tired of this, you know, that they just go in and they will just exit because it's just pointless to go into Old Lion's Court if you don't know what OLC is. It's a strike. If you don't know, it's a strike or / you know, raid encounter now, where you have the three what is it called, watchwork or watch knights or whatever, and you know, they have specific mechanics that you kind of have to do properly to not turn the entire zone or you know, zone into a complete clown fiesta where everyone just dies right and left by the time. And it's just crazy that people don't know that either, how to do that. It's not that, you know, it's not knowing how to do that, but they can't even read just the chat when people trying to tell them that, like, don't do that, don't like do this. Like, a great example that I can ramble about myself is that, do you know those typical pistol, oh, I have to be careful, it's pistol unload thieves, not gonna say PP unload. Oh no, I just said it. Damn. I'm probably gonna get banned. Oh well. There is the you know, the pistol unload thieves that occasionally in the past too, they found themselves in my strike groups, where I used to run strikes very often for the IBS 5 and maybe do some extras for the dailies, because they are easy. Honestly, they are kind of like, I can enjoy them sort of, and they are not that, you know, they are not hard really. Not even Harvest Temple. I actually love Harvest Temple because I think Harvest Temple is really nice because Harvest Temple has a really nice kind of like a pattern to how things go, and you can kind of like predict a lot of things, which is very nice because you can actually learn the fight very well. And you know, I go in and then, you know, I see this thief. Oh, it's using pistol. I'm like, okay. You know, before the fight starts, I am already thinking like, okay, who makes the bet that the guy will just start when we start a fight? The guy will just move away from the entire group. We start the fight, we stack on the boss, we start killing. Guess what? The pistol thief starts to walk away, backpedaling away from the boss into the edge of the arena, away from the entire group and squad, and gets downed. Why do you walk away? How do you not see that you have 9 people next to you hitting the effing boss? They're in melee range. Everyone is alive, everyone is being healed, everyone's getting boons. No, you have to be the anime protagonist or something, or the main character from some anime who walks away because I'm solo leveling or something and I'm gonna just one-shot this dude, so surely, or whatever, and fucking dies. Yeah, sorry for the F-bomb again. And like, what were you thinking? How do you have so little awareness? Do you play completely like first person or something? Because then I can understand that you walk away to see something for a fight, you know, or from the fight. But again, why? For both. Then why do you play first person? Why are you zoomed in? Zoom out. It's an MMO. Just zoom out. You have a character, you know. You have a scroll wheel. Even if not, then just bind it. I don't know. And not trying to sound condescending, you know, in the sense, which I probably do sound like that at this point, but it's, you know, it becomes exhausting. Okay, it's like when I don't know, it's like being a teacher, and after 4 years you see that the kids that you are trying to teach very enthusiastically are not caring, and they don't care at all, and no matter what you do that you try, they don't care. They don't read, they don't listen, they don't care, just do their own little thing in their own little bubble, and you are becoming very jaded and exhausted and absolutely like dissociated at that point, you know. And it's kind of like that eventually as well. And I can feel for some people who like do raid trainings, you know, and such as well, or for anything honestly, where people just not listen. And also on the side, I will mention for some people, you know, from the past, since it is you know, rambling time, that people won't kick you if you can talk, because it means that if you can talk, you can probably read the chat or what people suggest you to do, you know, when something goes wrong, or if you wipe on a strike or something, or raid boss or whatever, you know. But doing this absolute bullcrap, this typical meme that you make a like a squad or a LFG, you know, and you ask for specific things, and then someone joins in, it's immediately the high DPS. It's a very funny joke, but it is a very sad reality, okay? That people don't read anything. And even if they read, they will like argue with you that like, oh, but you will need a DPS anyway. Yeah, but I don't need it now. So why don't you like leave, or I kick you, and then when I'm looking for it, you can come back. Which I did it before. Yeah, they were salty, and then they left again. So I was like, why did you join the first, or like, why did you join in the second place, you know? But it's like, just read. It's not hard, really. Just read, and you will be so much better in like 80% of the game, because if you can read, you can learn the game. But most people don't want to read anyway, and it's just, yeah, it becomes exhausting for a lot of people, and I just don't get it, you know. It's also like for fights, you know, like going back a little bit on the visual clarity and such, slightly, you know, on this like the encounters and the designs and stuff. Like, I'm gonna example with like Final Fantasy XIV here, because Final Fantasy XIV I think does incredibly good job with encounters and being consistent with mechanics for most of the part, honestly. Yeah, there are some unique mechanics that some bosses do there, but it's unique for that boss and nothing else, you know, so you can learn it. But for very typical mechanics, they have, you know, they have a tutorial too to explain what they are, and that they explain that this is, every time you get this, it will be always exactly that mechanic and nothing else. It will not trick you or anything. And from the get-go, you get into dungeons and such, you know, and you start to learn these mechanics and get very used to them. They do this very nicely, honestly. And also every encounter just feels like a very logical pattern that you can follow or guess what is coming, you know. Like the visual cues for a bunch of the encounters from the boss are very logical and followable, if that's even a word. Like, yeah, sure, there are some fights that are not exactly most fun, but they're very engaging. They are very, very fun, honestly. If you played Final Fantasy XIV, you probably know what I'm talking about. Like, you probably understand that the like genuine the raids, the encounters, like raids, alliance raids, dungeon, but yeah, honestly, the higher level dungeons as well, the trials and such are honestly very fun. I had very few bosses in my, well, not life, but through the life of life in FF14 that I genuinely didn't enjoy. I could probably count it on like one hand of how many bosses I had like that. In Guild Wars 2, the most newer ones are like kind of meh. They're doing kind of nothing in my opinion. It's not engaging. They're just like there and they just do their thing. There is no engagement, honestly. Just like do it for a reward and that's it, and then just done and forget. But it's crazy to me, while I'm still talking about partially FF14, that why is it that I can go into a high level, let's say a trial or even a raid encounter that I have never done, and then I also know that other people haven't done, because they either say that like, hi, I'm first time on this one, and yeah, sure, well, some of us die here and there, and we can, you can battle res, like the healers can do that, and some of the DPS can do that too, but also, why is it that I have done these so many times? Why, in a sense of like first time, and then we still manage? Like I had raids or raid encounters with some bosses that are like pretty hard and takes a couple of minutes to actually beat them, and they have like 2 phases and such, and then but eventually everything becomes logical on first try. Maybe we wipe once, maybe twice, but like everyone remembers after like what you have to do, and then we are properly doing everything. Meanwhile in Guild Wars 2, oh, you are doing a boss that's been out for 2 years and still nobody has a single clue what to do, visually at least. Like you go into anything and people are like, what? And it's just like, dude, like it's not that hard. But also the game could be more consistent on the mechanics to actually make it a bit logical. Like, for example, thematically speaking, in Final Fantasy, a bunch of attacks make sense that the boss will do it a lot of times, or at least makes it sure that it fits into its thing, of like thematically why can it do it, and it turns logical a little bit. But in Guild Wars 2, it feels like they just add like a bunch of mechanic that makes no sense to the boss. Like I don't even understand. Maybe partially I could say something on it, but for example, there is a Aether Blade hideout, with like the Scarlet when she pops up, it's like this big avatar thing or whatever, and there are the bullet hell coming out from her, the 4-sided plus sign thingy, and it keeps just shooting out bullets from the middle. Why is it there? Is it because it's like the what's it called? The Chaos Fractal or something, because of the crates and such, there, and they do this bullet hell thing too as well. Is that the reason why it's there? Like she created bullet hell or something in the game, or what? Like I don't understand why is it there. The cone shot from Mytrine, I guess it makes sense because she's there and keeps shooting. That's fine, But then there is a bunch of other things like for example, why is there a laser? Where is it coming from and why? Like I get it, it's Aether Blade, but I don't really get it. Inside a cave. It's inside a cave. Why is that there? I don't really get it. Like, yeah, it shot through the entire cave, I guess. That doesn't make a single sense to me either. But anyway, that's like very nitpicky in a way. But again, it's just like I don't know. A bunch of things are not so consistent by idea to me. It's cool on paper, but it's like, yeah, but why is it there? It could have been something else visually at least, so it's kind of consistent or makes sense to the fight. But sometimes the entire visual cues are not the best either. It's just randomly doing the same attacks. Some of the visual cues are kind of okay, like on Bone Skinner, technically there are the puddles where the thing, raises its like forearm or whatever leg, or the front up, which nobody looks at for some reason, except for me occasionally and some other people. Because it's really easy to predict that it's doing it, because as soon as it raises up, you can just move already because it's already casting it. But also the thing, you know, about like AoE circles, when these like yellow AoE circles on the ground, not talking about the big red ones or these like squiggly lined ones, which are supposed to which is also weird because they are the squiggly one that is like very nicely decorated around is supposed to be the one that indicates that it is deadly. It's either downs you or will insta kill you. And then you have this one happening on other times where it actually doesn't kill you at all, it just deals big damage. So it's like, again, inconsistency. And then you have the little red circles that just appear on the ground, you know, they, oh, sorry, not red one, but it's like more you know, yellowish, orangish hostile circles. And even for that one, it's like when there are some fights where it, honestly, Greer is also a great example for this on the convergence, which I will try to swap in a clip from yesterday as well, that, you know, when it just starts to spew a bunch of mechanics out and I have no clue what's supposed to be. Does this deal less damage? Does the other one deal more damage? What is supposed to be more deadly? You know, like I just don't really get it. It's just horrid in that sense. Well, anyway, trying to go on also just to talk about it while I'm you know, kind of rambling about this here, because it's being long. It's more than an hour now and I don't really intend to edit this video. For example, I feel like, you know, while I do understand that, you know, boon DPS and heal boon is or boon heal and boon DPS is supposed to be a community built thing in the game, it is how to say, like, it is still something that works for a game. Like, we created those things, you know, instead of being this holy trinity, we have this kind of holy trinity, you know, the DPS, the boon heal, and boon DPS in most cases. Sometimes you don't exactly need a boon heal, because some fights actually don't really need heal if you are very good at it, you know, or just very minimal heal. So it's less of a boon heal, it's more like just a boon support, typically, which is still doing DPS, but it's doing the other kind of boon, like, you know, to complement the alacrity with quickness and such. It's kind of sad to see that ANET doesn't seem to acknowledge this either, or tries not to, because it's complicated. Which, again, it's actually a very good kind of example again for the thing where if the game doesn't provide it, the community will create it. And the problem is that when it's created by the community, it is not officially in the game, so they cannot properly do anything with it. Because while it's in the game, it is not official, you know, like healers in WoW or something, or in FF14, you know, where you queue up for a raid with as a healer, because you do learn that it is a healer and how it works through gameplay. But in this one you can't, because you can't level a boon DPS or like that, because the game doesn't provide that for you, because it's either something that you only can get after level 80 and such, and most typically you can only do that after level 80, you know, you can't level it as that, and hence they simply cannot put it into quick play and such for Fractal or for raid quick play or matchmaking, because it's a community made thing that is not guaranteed that everyone can be. And therefore, it just will never work. And this comes with the other problem that kind of just like spirals down to the point where for them to basically, but to me it feels like this way, that for them to be able to make things accessible, so-called accessible, you know, Fractal and raids, it ends up being just them turning them absolutely brain dead easy. And that's what it's been. Like, look at quick play, like Fractal quick play. It's literally just a go in and do whatever the hell you want. It still won't teach you anything. Like, I get it that the sentiment is supposed to be that, oh, well, new players, you know, can get in there, but it won't be difficult, but they can see what it is about. What do they see about it? What is it that they see that they can go in, auto-attack everything to death again, just like from level 1 to 80, and nothing happens? They just get the reward and like, GG, I left, this is so easy. And then when they go into actual Fractal, or like tier 4 and such, maybe not necessarily immediately tier 2, and let's not talk about tier 3, because that's like a mythical creature. But like, you know, they go into the actual deal thing and they will get called that like, hey dude, you suck. Because again, it's created by, you know, yeah, it's just problematic. You know, I feel like a bunch of things could have been so avoided, in my opinion, if ANET doesn't start with this thing that, oh, you can be just whatever the hell you want. Who cares? Nobody cares. You don't bother anyone. Nobody cares. There's no end game, you know, group content and such. They're like dungeons and that's it, but like we have nothing else. And they brought out fractals, and there was raids, and there was yada 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 and such, you know, going on. But the core game still teaches you that, oh, you can just do whatever the hell you want. And then when you leave the core game, the game punches you that, nope, that's actually not exactly the same thing anymore. Because there are raids and group content, you know, and then it expects you to know it, even though the game didn't tell you. Like it's like not teaching you, but then it like gives you an exam to do, and it's like, what am I supposed to write on this? It's like, well, you exactly know what you're supposed to write on it, but you didn't teach me anything, and it just leaves like, well, my job here is done. It's like, but you didn't do anything. I don't get it. You know, it's I just don't understand this really about a game, and this is just was something I really had to let out by now, honestly. And you know, just to touch upon the entire thing about this so-called Guild Wars 3, this is probably one of the things. By the way, just shortly, I don't really care whether or not it's coming out or what it will be. I will probably play it anyway because I like the franchise. I don't really care that much. I'm very indifferent about it. I'm very neutral. If it comes out as a MMO, I'm fine with it. I will probably play it. I will give it a try for sure. If it's not an MMO, but like an MMO-like thing, because let's be honest, it would only really work if it will be different than Guild Wars 2, or at least the base systems will be way different than Guild Wars 2, then it would work, you know, because it's very different, much like how Guild Wars 1 is different compared to Guild Wars 2. But anyway, I don't want to go into that talk too much, because that's possibly for like a different video if people are interested what my thoughts about exactly about Guild Wars 3. But this is definitely one point where I feel like if there is ever a Guild Wars 3, which very likely will be in my opinion, that I mean that's kind of clear that they're working on something, but nothing official obviously. If there will be ever a Guild Wars 3, then I hope that they start the game with this better mindset, that they know what they want, instead of just like, yeah, just do whatever you want. And then you have, after so many years, you have this thing, like more than 10 years later, you have this thing where the entire community is just torn apart in some sense, you know, about like group content, like how to approach content and such. Nobody wants to do raids. Everyone is afraid of doing raids, doing fractals, doing strikes or anything, you know, because, oh, I'm gonna get kicked and such thing. And just kind of sad, you know, because it's easy. It's piss easy, honestly. It's like the game is so easy you don't even know, because you think that absolute how do I put it nicely, you think, or sorry, not you, but you know, in general, a lot of people seem to think that the game is hard or very difficult. I'm not talking about LCMs, you know, like legendaries, challenge modes or challenge modes, not all of them. Even some challenge modes are pretty easy, honestly, and fun to do, in fractals especially. And the problem is that I feel like the game gives you this illusion that what the core game is what the standard is, and everything is just so much harder. When the problem is that what you know is literally nothing. Or not you again, but like what the general player base gets to know about the game is like not even the most core basic things about the game, like booms or healing or how to use your stats, how to gear or anything like that. They literally know nothing, and they think that is a standard because, well, I leveled to level 80, so this is probably what I have to do. And it's just crazy that it's like that. Sorry, you know, it's super bad. And then again, it turns into this like toxic part, you know, where like the community is torn, that like, oh, you can't tell me how to play my game, you can't tell me how to do this and that. I don't feel like this is healthy. Also, don't like being this. I'm gonna just mention, you know, on the sense that I don't think, also because there is some toxic positivity part of the community in this case, not the player base. Which I feel like is more harmful to the game than being more critical, but obviously a more critical way, which I'm trying to be, you know, I'm not trying to be disrespectful toward anyone, because
I love this franchise and I love the devs. I never have problem with them, you know, but this sort of like back and forth mutual weirdness between the game and the player base is just a weird like amalgamation of things that I feel like we ended up coming to a point where the game nurtured a player base that doesn't want to do anything, doesn't want to read, doesn't want to do any effort. It just wants to log in, press a couple of buttons and get every single reward, and then just get everything that is unique or something like that. Basically, a lot of times it just feels like that. And not much we can do about it at this point. It feels like a mobile game. People just want to play idle and not read, not interact with anything. It's an MMO, and a bunch of people don't want to interact with the other. Nobody wants to talk with the other one. Social things are kind of like out the window slowly. I feel like about the game as well, in some ways. So yeah, that's that. I don't know. It's kind of just that. Honestly, that's from the bottom of my heart. And I don't want to ramble for much longer. So that's practically it. It's already what like an hour and 20 minutes or so, which may be probably less than in the video. But yeah, that's truthfully unedited, pretty much unedited. I will probably just edit out some of my coughs and stuff from the video. Hopefully, I will, and try to put in some clips and such. But I will leave in all of my ums because it's very nice to listen to, and I can't be bothered to edit my voice too much, or because I don't like to listen to my voice because I hate it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Honestly, I could still ramble about a couple of things, but I think that's more than enough. It's just out of off of my shoulder, out of my soul, and I'm happy like this. Whatever your opinion is, feel free to share. Obviously, I'm not trying to make drama or something. Also, whoever wants to react to this or something, yeah, feel free to do. I really genuinely don't care in that sense. I mean, I care about sense of like what your opinion might be, but this is not about do I agree with you, or like do you agree with me, or do you disagree with me. It's my perspective, my opinion, and it will change nothing about the game, so I don't care in that sense. I just wanted to let it out, just like screaming into the void sort of thing. So that's practically it. So yep, thank you for listening, and that's basically all, and I am out. Have a good one. Have a nice day. Bye.